Hollywood is buzzing and the noise is deafening because more of Blake Lively's deposition has just been unsealed, and the details are setting off shockwaves across the industry. The carefully crafted public image, the poised red carpet appearances, the rehearsed interviews, and the controlled social media posts have all been temporarily stripped away, leaving behind the raw words spoken under oath in a setting where every sentence can be scrutinized and every pause can spark speculation. This is not the glamorous side of fame. This is the side where reputations are tested, friendships are strained, and careers can pivot in a matter of moments. The stakes here are enormous, not just because of who is involved, but because of what is at risk. This is about influence, credibility, and the unseen forces that shape the narratives the public consumes for months. The legal battle between Lively and Justin Baldoni has been the subject of endless theories online, with whispers about backroom deals, power plays, and personal betrayals. But now, with these fresh deposition excerpts entering the public record, there is something concrete to analyze. Something that gives both fans and critics a new lens through which to view the conflict. The pages reveal a witness who is not just any bystander, but someone long regarded as one of Baldoni's most persistent adversaries, a figure with their own history, their own motivations, and now their own sworn account of events the way they describe. Private interactions, their recollection of critical conversations, and their insight into the emotional temperature of key moments adds a new dimension to the story. And the implications are staggering, because in Hollywood, sworn testimony does more than just live in legal files. It seeps into casting decisions, brand partnerships, and even the public's willingness to buy tickets or stream a project. This is why the release of these deposition details has triggered a frenzy not only among legal analysts, but also among studio executives, agents, and media strategists who are all now recalibrating their understanding of what this case means for the players involved. Imagine a scenario where a single line from this deposition becomes the headline for days, sparking debates across talk shows, podcasts, and social platforms. That is the reality we are stepping into. And it is one where every word matters, every implication matters, and every perceived contradiction will be amplified. The question now is not simply what was said, but what will be done with it. Will these revelations strengthen one side's position? Will they prompt settlement talks? Will they inspire others to come forward with their own accounts? Or will they ignite an even more aggressive round of legal and public relations battles? Whatever happens next, it is clear that the unsealing of these excerpts marks a turning point. And as we dig deeper into the words spoken in that deposition chair, we begin to see just how high the stakes truly are. The headlines are already spinning, and the public cannot look away because new pieces from Blake Lively's deposition have just been unsealed. And what they reveal is unlike anything we have seen before in this long-running legal saga involving her and Justin Baldoni. The courtroom has been the stage for some of Hollywood's most intense battles. But these latest revelations are forcing both fans and insiders to reevaluate what they thought they knew. And the reason is simple: when sworn testimony is laid out in black and white, when it is stripped of all the layers of public relations polish and carefully worded statements, it gives us a raw, unfiltered view of the dynamics, power struggles, and personal motives behind the scenes. The atmosphere surrounding this case has been thick with speculation for months, but the latest batch of documents is different. It is not just the usual vague legal filings. Instead, it contains detailed answers, provided under oath, painting a picture of events that were once only hinted at. And as those answers reach the court of public opinion, the reaction is instant and explosive. This is the kind of material that changes narratives, shifts alliances, and forces people in Hollywood to take sides. Suddenly, every whispered rumor, every blind item, and every anonymous tip starts to take on new meaning. Because now there is sworn testimony to compare it against the early pages of these unsealed transcripts, are already sparking heated discussion among legal analysts and entertainment journalists alike. And what makes them particularly compelling is how they highlight the friction between Lively and one of Baldoni's most vocal adversaries. This figure, long seen as a thorn in the side of Baldoni, steps into the spotlight here, not through a tabloid interview or social media post, but in the most serious of arenas, the deposition chair, where every word is recorded and every slip can be dissected. For meaning, the sworn statements give us a window into their perspective, and that perspective is anything but tame. There is a sense in these pages that the witness was not holding back, that they were willing to lay out a version of events that could upend carefully constructed reputations. The stakes are already high in any high-profile lawsuit. But when personal reputations, multi-million-dollar deals, and future opportunities in the entertainment industry are on the line, each sentence becomes a potential weapon. This is why these deposition excerpts matter. They are not just a recap of old conflicts. They are fresh ammunition in a fight that has already pulled in powerful players from multiple corners of the industry. This is why, as we unpack what was said, we have to keep in mind that every revelation here will ripple outward, affecting careers, relationships, and even public perceptions in ways that cannot be fully predicted yet. So picture the scene. The room is quiet, but tense lawyers shuffling papers, a court reporter ready to capture every word, and a witness prepared to speak their truth. Knowing full well the weight of the moment as the questions begin, the answers flow, sometimes measured, sometimes pointed, but always deliberate. There is no room for evasions here because every response will be locked in as part of the official record, and when we read them now with the benefit of hindsight and context, we can see how these words might shift the trajectory. Of this entire case, the first area of questioning focuses on communications between Lively and various key figures. During the most heated period of the dispute, the witness recalls timelines, interactions, and even the emotional tone of certain exchanges. The choice of words here is telling. It hints at tensions that were never fully acknowledged in public appearances or interviews. It shows cracks in the image of unity and control that has often been projected, and perhaps most importantly, it positions Baldoni in a way that may strengthen his narrative in the eyes of the court and the public. But the deposition does not stop there. It moves into more sensitive territory areas where motivations, intentions, and behind-the-scenes maneuvers are discussed with surprising frankness. The witness speaks about moments where they felt pressured or misled, about instances where important details seemed to be hidden or downplayed, and about how certain individuals reacted when confronted with uncomfortable truths. Each account builds on the last, creating a mosaic of events that feels both intimate and high stakes. At the same time, reading these passages, one cannot help but imagine the reactions of those who were present at the time. Were they shocked by what was said? Were they scrambling to prepare counter-narratives? Or did they see it as an opportunity to advance their own positions? Whatever the case may be. One thing is clear. These deposition excerpts are not just a snapshot of the past. They are a live wire running through the current legal battle, and everyone involved is aware of its potential charge in the entertainment industry. Perception is often as important as fact, and when sworn testimony begins to alter perception, the ripple effects can be swift and unforgiving. This is why the unsealing of these documents has already sent publicists into overdrive, why social media timelines are flooded with speculation, and why this story is dominating not just entertainment news but mainstream coverage as well. It is not every day that we get such a candid look into the minds and strategies of Hollywood players while they are still in the middle of their most intense conflicts. But this is one of those moments, and as more people read and react, the pressure will only grow for key players to respond. And in Hollywood, a response is never just about answering questions. It is about shaping the story and trying to control the narrative before it controls you. As the questioning in the deposition dug deeper, the tone in the room began to shift. And while the witness remained composed, there was an undeniable undercurrent of tension in the way certain questions were framed and answered. Legal observers who have reviewed these transcripts point out that this is often where the most revealing information comes from. Not the prepared opening statements or the expected recitations of timelines, but in those moments when a question forces a pause, when the witness must decide whether to give a short, safe answer or open the door to more probing follow-ups. In this case, the witness appeared willing to elaborate in ways that some insiders have privately described as unusually direct for a deposition involving Hollywood figures. They did not simply acknowledge dates and facts. They went into context, explaining why certain decisions were made, how meetings unfolded, and what they perceived the motivations of other people to be, and when. The other person in question is someone with as much public visibility as Blake Lively. The impact of those explanations is magnified. The transcripts reveal passages where the witness described private conversations that have never been publicly acknowledged before, conversations that allegedly took place during key turning points in the dispute. And these accounts, while still one person's version under oath, carry significant weight because they are now part of the formal record. In one particularly striking exchange, the witness was asked about whether they believed certain public statements made by Lively were accurate, and rather than sidestepping They gave a detailed breakdown of why they felt those statements were misleading, or incomplete, citing specific instances where they claim the behind-the-scenes. Reality did not match the public narrative, and as those words were transcribed, they became more than just opinion. They became testimony that could potentially be used to challenge credibility in court. This is a delicate area for any high-profile case because credibility is everything in the eyes of a judge and jury. And when the person giving this account has a history of clashing with Baldoni, the layers of complexity multiply. The deposition excerpt suggests that this witness was not simply there to take jabs, but to lay out a structured account of events that they believe supports their position, while simultaneously casting doubt on Lively's version of events. The result is a narrative that feels both personal and strategic at the same time. What makes this even more compelling is how the lawyers on both sides handled it. The attorneys for Lively appeared to push back on certain assertions, challenging the witness on details, and attempting to narrow the scope of their answers, while the attorneys aligned with Baldoni seemed content to let the witness speak at length, knowing that the more detail they offered, the more potential material they might have to work with later. This tactical interplay between lawyers is a hallmark of high-stakes depositions. Every pause, every rephrased question, every objection is part of a larger chess match designed to shape the record in ways that will be advantageous down the line. And in reading these unsealed excerpts, it is clear that both sides understood exactly how much was at stake for their clients beyond the legal consequences. There is also the matter of public image in Hollywood. A single line from a deposition can make headlines if it is sensational enough. And in the age of instant digital amplification, even nuanced testimony can be clipped and circulated without context, generating waves of reaction before the full story is known. And that is precisely what is starting to happen here. Already, social media threads are dissecting the most eye-catching lines from these transcripts, speculating about their implications and trying to piece together the bigger picture. From scattered fragments, fans are weighing in with theories, commentators are offering their interpretations, and those with industry connections are hinting that there is still more to come. This cycle of revelation, reaction, and speculation is exactly what makes cases like this so unpredictable. Because once information is out in the open, it develops a life of its own. In one segment of the deposition, the witness recalled an instance where they claimed they were present during a conversation in which certain strategies about media handling were discussed. This part is drawing particular attention because it touches on how public statements are crafted and the role of coordinated messaging in shaping how stories are received if proven accurate. It suggests that some of the public responses to early reports about the dispute may not have been spontaneous, but part of a deliberate effort to manage perception. Again, this is one person's account, but when that account is sworn testimony, it demands to be taken seriously by those following the case. The witness was also pressed on whether they had any direct knowledge of agreements or arrangements that might have influenced how certain events unfolded here. They offered careful but telling responses, indicating that while they may not have been involved in the negotiations themselves, they were aware of discussions that pointed toward such arrangements existing. This is the kind of statement that could lead to further subpoenas or document requests as lawyers try to corroborate or refute these claims. And that is why these depositions matter so much. They are not just about what is said on the day they are given. They are about what doors those statements open for the rest of the case in Hollywood, where careers can be made or broken on perception alone. The release of sworn testimony that challenges the image of a major star is enough to trigger behind-the-scenes scrambling from PR teams, management, and even other actors who fear being caught up in the fallout. The unsealing of this material has done exactly that. Multiple sources close to the situation have indicated that calls are already being made. Strategy sessions are being held and damage control measures are being considered because no one involved wants to be blindsided by a sudden shift in public opinion driven by testimony they were not prepared to address. And with more depositions potentially on the horizon, the uncertainty grows. What else might be revealed? Who else might be named or implicated? And how might these revelations affect the overall direction of the case in the weeks ahead? These are the questions now hanging over every conversation about this legal battle. And until the next round of documents is unsealed or the next witness takes the stand, the speculation will only intensify. The deeper you go into the unsealed deposition, the more it becomes clear that what is unfolding here is not just a legal confrontation between two public figures, but a layered power struggle in which every statement, every recollection, and every subtle shift in tone has the potential to tilt the balance. the witness. In this case, someone who has long been perceived as a nemesis to Justin Baldoni was questioned not only about their own interactions with Blake Lively, but also about what they claim to have observed between her and other key players. The details they offered are painting a vivid picture of private meetings, heated exchanges, and calculated moves that were never meant for public consumption. One particularly striking moment in the transcript comes when the witness describes an encounter that allegedly took place at a high-profile industry event, the kind where cameras capture the smiles and polite small talk, but the real conversations happen in quieter corners. According to the testimony, this was where the first signs of deeper tensions became impossible to ignore. The witness claimed they saw body language shifts, sharp glances, and terse whispered words that contradicted the polished image both parties had worked hard to present. They went further, suggesting that from that point on, every public appearance felt more like a performance than a genuine display of unity. This kind of statement resonates because it feeds into something the public has long suspected, that much of what they see in celebrity interactions is carefully constructed, and that the truth often lies in the unscripted moments that slip through the cracks as the deposition continues. The witness is asked to provide specifics on certain dates and events, and they respond with a level of detail that suggests either a meticulous memory or extensive preparation. They recall exact locations, snippets of dialogue, and the presence of particular individuals whose names are now underlined in the official record. This is significant because those names may become new focal points for the legal teams involved. If corroborated, these accounts could lead to additional witnesses being called or new lines of questioning being developed. And that is where the ripple effect of this testimony becomes most apparent. It is not only about what the witness said, but about how their statements could expand the scope of the entire case. The attorneys handling this deposition seemed acutely aware of this potential. The questions they asked were methodical and occasionally repetitive, a tactic often used to see if a witness will inadvertently change their story or reveal inconsistencies. But in this instance, the witness remained steady, rarely deviating from their original answers, and that consistency will be noted not only by the lawyers but by anyone in the public analyzing these transcripts. What adds another layer to all this is how the media is already framing it. Coverage of the unsealed excerpts is split, with some outlets presenting the witness as a credible insider, offering valuable context, while others portray them as having an agenda fueled by past conflicts with Baldoni and his circle. This duality is crucial because it shows how even sworn testimony can be filtered through the lenses of bias and perception to serve different narratives. The fact remains, however, that the words are on the record, and that record is now accessible to the public, which means anyone can read and interpret it for themselves. Another intriguing segment of the deposition revolves around financial matters, specifically whether certain projects or partnerships were affected by the ongoing tensions between the parties involved here. The witness stops short of making definitive claims, but suggests that there were opportunities which either stalled or shifted focus in the wake of behind-the-scenes disagreements. This is a sensitive point because in Hollywood, where reputations and relationships drive so much of the business, even the perception that someone is difficult to work with can have lasting consequences. Whether or not such perceptions are fair, the reality is they influence decisions about casting deals and collaborations, and the witness testimony touches on this in ways that could have broader implications for both Lively and Baldoni. If industry decision-makers believe that working with one side or the other carries potential fallout, they may adjust their strategies accordingly. This is why the deposition is not merely a matter of legal maneuvering. It is a battleground for future career trajectories. The witness also faces questions about their own credibility, including prior public statements and any connections that could be perceived as conflicts of interest. This is standard procedure in high-stakes cases because undermining a witness's reliability can be as powerful as refuting their claims. But in reviewing the transcript, it is evident that the attorneys probing in this area did not manage to extract any dramatic admissions. Instead, the witness acknowledged past disputes, but framed them as part of the broader context that makes their perspective valuable rather than compromised. Whether that framing holds in the court of public opinion is another matter entirely, as this deposition is analyzed over the coming days and weeks. Its influence will likely grow because it offers both sides material to work with for Lively's team The strategy may involve highlighting any potential biases or inconsistencies, while for Baldoni and those aligned with him, the focus will be on amplifying the parts of the testimony that support their case and weaken their opponent's credibility. This tug of war over interpretation is as much a part of the process as the deposition itself. And with the unsealing of these excerpts, that process has now spilled into the public arena in an environment where information moves at the speed of a click and headlines can shift narratives overnight. The real question becomes not just what was said, but how it will be remembered and used in the battles still to come, as the dust settles on the latest unsealing of Blake Lively's deposition. It is clear that this is not the end of the story, but merely the start of a new and even more intense chapter. The testimony we have seen so far is only a portion of the larger record, and yet it has already sent ripples through Hollywood, through the legal community, and through the court of public opinion. The witness statements, the timelines, the recollections, and the subtle yet telling observations all weave together into a narrative that challenges the carefully maintained images of the key players involved for Blake Lively. The pressure is mounting to respond in a way that can contain the damage and reassert control over her public narrative for Justin Baldoni. The opportunity to leverage this testimony in support of his own legal and personal positioning is just as significant. The dynamic between these two has now been reframed by the sworn words of someone who has lived close enough to the core of events to see things most outsiders never could, and whether you believe every word or question the motives behind them. The fact remains that this deposition is now part of the official record, and that record will live on influencing perceptions long after the case itself is resolved behind the scenes. Teams of lawyers, publicists, and strategists are no doubt already preparing for the next moves, because in cases like this, every revelation sparks a reaction. Every reaction shapes the next headline, and every headline feeds back into the momentum of the story. There is no doubt that more documents will be unsealed, more witnesses will be questioned, and more private moments will be thrust into the public eye, and with each step, the stakes will rise because reputations are not easily repaired. Once they have been dented and trust is even harder to rebuild for the fans watching from the outside, this is a rare and unfiltered glimpse into the machinery of celebrity conflict. The kind of view that strips away the gloss and exposes the strategy, the missteps, and the vulnerabilities that are usually hidden for the media. This is a goldmine of content that will be dissected, debated, and reinterpreted in countless ways for those directly involved. It is a battle that extends far beyond the courtroom into every aspect of their professional and personal lives. In the end, the true impact of these deposition excerpts may not be fully felt for months or even years, but what is certain right now is that they have changed the landscape of this case and set into motion a chain of events that cannot be undone as we await the next release of testimony and the next twist in this high-stakes drama. One thing is undeniable. This story has become more than a legal dispute. It has become a defining moment for everyone involved, and the world will be watching to see who emerges from it stronger and who is left to pick up the pieces.